I just want to say up and down, year up and down. I don't even know how I want to say this because it's going to sound brutal no matter which way I go. They've missed the mark, Guz, on multiple occasions, and I think maybe this is kind of like the last hurrah. If we don't see WILDCARD really come out of the gate swinging, especially against a team like Direwolves, there's going to be issues.
Yeah, and points, again, if top 2 is on the cards for them, must needed at this point in time, currently in that 4th slot. So it's certainly achievable for them, but this is a difficult matchup. The Direwolves obviously quite strong, and WILDCARD are sort of teetering along. They had a good first Playday performance against the Knights. Against Tide. They did get that victory 7-4, but since then it has been a little bit of a struggle. Pushing OT against the Knights wasn't too bad of a performance, but it was again the classic WILDCARD trope, which is seemingly kind of gone across multiple rosters and multiple players now, where they do struggle sometimes to close out games. That was the story there, but they've had a week to reset. Again, a relatively newly formed roster with some pretty fresh names in this sort of competitive scene at the APAC levels, so keen to see if they can show us the goods today.
I have no doubt that they'll be able to, but I guess really, Xenox, is probably how far this roster will go. You know, we've seen this roster go through so many changes in the last 12 months, 24 months. Do we think that this is its strongest iteration?
I mean, even if it is it still enough to make top 2? The answer to that, no, right? I think in some ways there's almost that sort of hopium that WILDCARD's going to be able to turn around every time we get into a new stage. They obviously end up winning the sort of first game. I think they've done that for like the last 2 stages now, where they've won that first game. They've looked really good. We kind of talked them up a bit, and then they just start to fall flat as the stage progresses. So this is the test for them. You know, you have to beat Direwolves. You have to get the 3 points. There's no other way to spin it. They play Elevate after this, and then they play Fury. So you're playing the 2 best Thai teams that are number 1 and number 2 at the moment, respectively, on the standings. It's must-win territory for a team that has struggled basically for the entirety of APAC South since it got introduced. And, you know, it's time to sort of just put some results on the board that make people go, oh, okay, they're not that bad. Unfortunately, until that happens, you're just going to end up with the same storyline. They start okay, and then they just fall off, and then they finish the stage maybe bottom 2. So they need to be the ones that sort of turn that around. Can they do it? I don't think they can. Personally, against the Direwolves, I think the Direwolves are actually showing their ability to turn around a poor stage 2 after obviously a tremendous stage 1. So, you know, the writing's on the wall for WILDCARD. Must win, and honestly must do it in a sort of fairy tale fashion. Otherwise, it's stage over.
And not only would it be stage over for, you know, WILDCARD, but it would also put Direwolves in the prime position, right? They're coming into this the only undefeated team so far in APAC South after 3 Playdays. Of course, they've missed 1 matchup, but they have gone 1-1 in terms of, you know, win 1 and then win 1 in overtime. Guys, I mean, this roster could almost be missing Pika and him just not show up to the game, and I think Reaps would almost do the job.
Yeah, for sure. Reaps has certainly been impressive throughout this stage so far. A bit of a slow start, but the last couple of Playdays he really has stepped it up, and it feels like he's already a nice addition to the roster. So hoping to see his form continue, and it's really about Direwolves just trying to get a win across the line here with relative ease. It should be, again, a comfortable win for them. That is the expectation heading into the day, and they are just nipping at the heels of the top 2 at the moment. So it's an important win for them, especially considering that Fury are in decent form, and although we didn't predict them, there's no way in hell any of us can put the line through Fury to get 3 points tonight, so it's an important win.
It certainly is. It's time for us to have a look at the vetoes. Of course, that being of a best of 1. There is a large amount of importance on where we end up. Nice to see Bank gone, Skyscraper in the mix as well. Xenox, we head to CHALET. I mean, I'm excited about that one. The prospect of these 2 teams competing on CHALET does excite me a little bit, but I feel like it's definitely going to be leaning into Direwolves' play style.
Well, you say that, but they firstly haven't played it, and it's also their most banned map by some way. For reference, 31 times they've banned it. The next one after that was Clubhouse on 21, and then it just drops off even further from that. WILDCARD go through pretty much their standard ban process. Skyscraper Theme Park, pretty much instant bans. They just don't play them at all. Oregon's probably one of their 50-50 ones, but it's a map that the Direwolves themselves don't ban and have been playing it. Not necessarily the best results on it, but I think that's an understanded ban there for WILDCARD. And then Cafe, the last one, thankfully, because we've had too much of it, is a map that they have struggled on and the Direwolves have performed well on. So I honestly think WILDCARD has actually won this map veto process based on just the simple fact that they got the bans that they wanted in Skyscraper Theme Park. They banned out 2 50-50 maps in Oregon and Cafe, and they got a map in Chalet that the Direwolves ban out every single time they play it. They just haven't played it. It's the only map they haven't played. So this is a win for Wildcard. It doesn't necessarily mean that obviously Chalet is like, oh my god, this is the map for Wildcard. It's just not the map for Direwolves.
Look, celebrations for the fact that we're finally seeing a different map outside of Cafe and Oregon. We haven't seen a different map outside of those two since Playday 1, but this is the second time we will be seeing Chalet played in Stage 3, guys. Knowing what Xenox has kind of put in front of you, the fact that we've never really seen Direwolves at all compete, especially at this level, does that give you woes at all, or is that actually concerning for Wildcard?
This is the weird discussion we always have when a team has very limited or no play on a map. It goes one or two ways. Direwolves have been scrimming it, practicing it, and have been waiting to bring it out on an occasion like this where they, every game's really important at this stage, but at the moment they really wanted to stay in the run for the top 2, so they'll bring it out today, get that win across the line. But it is, pretty weird. 31 bans. Their next ban map is Clubhouse on 21, so they have absolutely not wanted to touch this map with a 10-foot pole. So Wildcard have, I think, done some really good research. They might come out and say that they just did whatever on this veto, but we can go with the storyline that they've played it well and looked at the numbers. That's what we're looking at. So very keen to see how this one plays out. Direwolves are on a 10-map win streak at the moment. That does include some of the SEA games more locally, so not quite the same strength as APAC South, but
8 of the 10.
The vast majority, but it is still wins, right? And again, when we consider that Direwolves do have new additions to the roster, it means that they've been around a winning environment, and we'll see if that translates into Chalet.
Well, it's big because all teams have shown that they are mortal here. Direwolves have a great opportunity to head to the top of the table, at least for the first matchup of this Playday. But for your most iconic duo, outside of, the two boys next to me, it's your Dandy.
Thanks, Rob. Big calls from the desk. It's time for the Wolves and Wildcard. Should be a great game. And as we get to, it feels like we've only just started Stage 3, but we are actually getting halfway through the stage now. It's crazy.
It does not feel like it's been half a stage. There's been some big results, massive upsets, but if you're the Direwolves, you're currently undefeated through APAC South, and that is a pretty big feat.
It is, and yet Direwolves still do not sit at the top of the standings. They have a chance to land in first place, at least for a time, if they can take a win here over the wounded Wildcard, who of their 3 games so far have only managed to take a victory in just one of them.
Pretty shocking on the side of Wildcard, but of course they've gone through a pretty turbulent year. They've gone through, I suppose, they've got some good results on the board. They always seem like they come so close to that 5-7 scoreline, but are never able to put it over the line. But this particular matchup, Dev, I am looking to the Direwolves, not necessarily because they show incredible form on Chalet, but because APAC South is all about your week-to-week form, and Direwolves just don't look like that train is going to stop anytime soon.
Keen to see whether Direwolves can have a resurgence, because Stage 1 was all theirs. They got first place. They went to the Charlotte Majors. Stage 2, they dropped down. They weren't able to make it to Berlin. It would be a great resurgence for them in Stage 3, but we're already quite deep into this ban phase, and it's surprising to me, at least. We're not seeing that Thatcher gone. We're seeing Yana, a set of nades taken out, and Hibana, one of our hard breaches. Quite unusual on the attacking side for me.
I'd have to agree with you. I think at the moment in the meta, there are so many operators that are just so important on the attacking side that you can't ban out everything. Nades were important at one point, so taking out a set of them does put a thorn in the side of their entries. Same thing with taking out Hibana. Hard breach is not something that is a plenty or very necessary on Chalet, so there are many options left in the form of Ace. And I just feel like the aid of having Flores and Thatcher in does make this attacking half kind of easy, to be honest, Dev.
Well, funny, Chalet is a map that I always considered it to be quite attacker-sided, just in the context of things. And then recently, of course, we've had the entire league start to be a bit attacker-sided. So far, it is only slightly attacker-sided in APAC South, but it's only been played once, so it's hard to really read into that too much. I think I was looking at, I can't remember which region it was, maybe it was NAL, one of the other regions the other day, and saw that Chalet was actually defender-sided, which surprised me. But certainly with these bans, with the Azami taken out as well, I'm inclined to agree with you, which is why it makes it even more interesting to me that we're starting in what many consider to be the weakest bomb site on the map for the defense. We're down in the basement.
It definitely does fascinate me, but I would have to agree with what WILDCARD are trying to do here. They've gone, okay, there's a lot on the cards for the attack. They've got EMPs, they've got Flores, they've got all the explosives they could want except for Iana. So let's just go to this basement where we don't need a clear shield, we don't need to do that type of thing. We'll play an extended roam aided by this mirror, aided by the hatch being open, as well as the KE to deal with those walls and keep them closed to the late round. And I really think that this plays super well into the attacker bans on the side of Direwolves.
Yet Direwolves can also fully change it. Every single one of their members, all 5 operators, changed during the prep phase. So they brought the exact tools that they want for the job, which only includes a single hard breach. So Ace will be the sole operator to open up both the Snowmobile and the Wine Cellar side if they go for both, but Pika's found an early pick. Tuhan, usually a bit of a menace on these early picks. He's playing the aggressive alibi. I'm not quite sure where he was taken down, but that's a pretty significant blow.
So Tuhan is the player that holds on to that top floor control all the way on the top floor, very far from the basement, and tries to fall off through that master bedroom hatch, the one that's open. Bouncing's looking at it now. If that double window is opened up early, that's exactly where Pika was. He cut him off super, super quickly, and already WILDCARD are down a member.
Direwolves have moved in on the back of it as well. Like that from Bouncin. As he retreats, he opens up the mirror window to make sure that the attackers can't use that against him, as he has forfeited dining control. Along with it, the hatch already opened as well, another avenue onto the site. So Direwolves already looking very good here.
Oh, but look at this from Cairo. He's starting to retake this top floor, knowing that the Direwolves are just starting to get this flank watch set up, knowing that all of their players are consolidated on this north side of the building. No one's playing the cutoffs on the south side just yet, so this real estate is still open to him. Now, Banson's also opened up that mirror, so retaking into the ground floor is not impossible for WILDCARD at this stage, as the Direwolves start to get control closer to the site.
WILDCARD still have the threat of those roamers. You mentioned all the way on the top floor, Cairo, but also Bouncin in bar. One nade goes out. Not sure what util that was to clear. I think that might have gotten a mute jammer perhaps on this wall, which allows the Ace to go and breach it. No breach on Snowmobile as of yet, though. As you can see, Direwolves really focusing their attention on the bomb site, not onto these 2 roamers.
ED starting to rotate that final Selma charge as well over to that trench side and getting open the elbow wall, pinching out the position of OJ, who's about to be in a world of pain. Bad times are headed his way, but thankfully Vinny is there for the crossfire.
The time's ticking away, and that means that these roamers will start to gain a little bit more power, a little bit more traction, and that's why Cairo has managed to flank up stairs all the way in office. On top of that, Bouncing's found one, but meanwhile, Direwolves have gone for broke on the site. It's a 2v3 now. Pika looking to find this engagement. Vinny hiding in the corner of Kong Souffle. Upstairs, watching out for these flanks. Pika really has to be the man to step up here. Has to take out this last remaining site player to pressure these roamers. But Vinny holds on. He stands true for the double. And it's a good opening round from WILDCARD.
What a beautiful read from WILDCARD to open up the series as well, Dev. I really liked that the way they played this hold was so ambitious. They knew that in order to hold on to Chalet, there's a lot of tools for the attackers. Let's do something ambitious. Let's hold on to the room for as long as we can. Waste time. Because if we play these anchor positions, just playing shields, there are explosives galore for the attack to be able to deal with this. And the way that they played that roam was so to perfection as well. They knew that the Direwolves players had all consolidated on the north side. So they said, let's hold on to the real estate on the south side. Let's be the thorn in their side and make sure that we're putting on the pressure relentlessly through the entire round. And we saw that through the open hatch, Cairo retaking. We saw that through the open mirror. Direwolves always had something to worry about.
Especially because we talked about how this should, in theory, be an attacker-sided game. It's a pretty significant achievement for WILDCARD to start on the right foot. WILDCARD in this series are the lower rated team. They're the ones who, as the guys on the desk said, have had such a turbulent, I'm going to say 2 years. You know, back in the day, WILDCARD was the best team in OS. It's a far cry from that any longer. And they almost got relegated at the end of last year, both from the Nationals, OCN, and from APAC South. Now, they kept their head above water there for both of those, but they haven't really done any damage here. They've never been a real threat for a major spot. So Direwolves, they are favored here, and they start with WILDCARD getting the first blow.
So I like what WILDCARD have been able to do here, Dev. They've brought along the castle, and what that's doing is that's protecting these mirror positions that Vin is holding just inside of this connector box here inside of Library. That is triple castle barricaded off, if I'm not wrong. There's also one on the window here as well. And holding onto this position is so pivotal for this bomb site, because not only do you hold on to the vertical control from inside of Heaven, inside of Mezzanine, you can also hold on to that Library hatch, and it makes the anchors feel a lot more safe, and it's mission critical if the Direwolves want to make their way into the bomb site. Not only that, but there's even a second mirror here to hold on to that double window jump in.
Comes the Roteros from ED. He's been trying to clear out a bit of util. Not entirely sure exactly which bits he's managed to get as of yet, but Reaps has taken advantage of an opening. He's gone and sent it straight on in. He's immediately traded back. The Incandelas come through. OJ flashed, but Vinny not. An early threat of an execute from Direwolves, and WILDCARD are wondering what is going on. ED now in mud. He does finally go down. OJ holds it on. WILDCARD have weathered the storm here. Direwolves, a very early, premature push. And it leaves just Jackie with the last one left. He's got the down onto 2 Hunt. But 1v3 now. Jump in, not advisable. Goes for it anyway. Isolate these 1v1s. It's a good move from WILDCARD to fall back. They're going to play this perfectly.
And the discipline from WILDCARD is so good as well. Like you said, they are playing this perfectly, aren't they? They've all fallen back to the site. They're not exposing themselves to the 2 hatches that they know are open. Just look at the positioning that they've got here. OJ really far away, just playing this long line sight bouncing. He's got ears on the diffuser. Vin still holding on to his position inside of stock. There is no way that Jackie can isolate these 1 versus 1s and pick up the diffuser like this. Unless Bouncin will give away his life like that. Oh, a bit of a dicey 1-on-1. Jackie Wu has more bullets and will eventually take him down.
You can't let him.
I know.
You can't let him try. You
Can't.
can't let him get the opportunity to make it possible. Thankfully, OJ is holding a good angle, but yeah, a little bit scary there, that 1v3 becoming a 1v2. Thankfully, WILDCARD, as I said, they weather that storm. They're ready for that early execute. They make sure that even though Reaps gets in, they can trade it back.
And I really like what the WILDCARD was able to do there once again. Seeing that explosives galore, once again, on the side of the attack, let's do something that is going to be very, very hard to crack. And that's holding on to that library box position with the mirror, playing that hatch open. That's not something that we see as very conventional in Chalet. If that hatch is open, it puts a lot of danger on your anchors inside of bar, for example. Anyone playing around that jukebox, that type of thing. And so holding onto that was so important, and that's what they did with the mirror and castle setup. As a result, Direwolves, they just tried to flood in through the ground floor, not respecting that that hatch was open, and OJ was playing laterally to prevent them from running in straight away, and that's just so masterfully played from WILDCARD.
That said, you can see the idea, like you said, from Direwolves. They tried to go for something a little bit aggressive, try and throw WILDCARD off guard. If they've got a really complicated site set up off-site, maybe just try and see if there's an opening. And to be fair, Reaps did have an opening. He was just traded back. Problem now for Direwolves. 2 rounds down on what should be attacker-sided Chalet, with Hibana and Yana and Azami out. Cause for concern now. They've taken their tactical pause. We're also just going to go for a quick rehost while we take that tactical pause. But the question in my mind is, what have Direwolves got to do to get back on that horse?
Well, it's a tough question to ask, Tev, because if you're Direwolves at the moment in this tactical timeout, you're thinking, okay, how do we approach this WILDCARD defense? Do we, A, the challenge is in front of us, let's face the challenge and crack through it by playing the attrition game with the utility, or B, completely ignore it, which is exactly what they tried to go for the last attempt. Or C, which is kind of a combination of both, where they go, we're only going to deal with a set amount of utility and then push from just there. And it feels like Direwolves, no matter what their approach they've gone for, it hasn't been given enough respect to what WILDCARD have brought into the server. And I think they need to take this tactical timeout to get on the same page and deal with it in the right way.
Makes me wonder if there's a bit more to this. Direwolves haven't played Chalet in all of my records. In fact, it has been their first ban in the vast majority of their last 37 maps played. It's just their most banned map by far. 31 bans. Direwolves don't really play this map, yet they let it slip through on the ban phase here. In contrast, WILDCARD, they don't play it a lot, but they did play it just 1 month ago against Tide in their first game of APAC South, and they did win it 7-4. So Direwolves are taking WILDCARD to a map that they know that WILDCARD play, they know WILDCARD are decent at. This is the first time Direwolves are really trying it out in a comp setting for a hell of a long time. Is this a risk that perhaps they're going to regret?
I would have to agree with you there, Dev. I think that Wildcard in these last 2 rounds are clearly showing that they understand the map much better than the Direwolves do. They're making use of the architecture and they're punishing the Direwolves for mistakes that they're making with the map control that they are not taking. Everywhere that there is no Direwolves player, there is a Wildcard player. And that's what we've seen in the last 2 rounds. And it just feels like a huge gap in the knowledge of this particular map between the 2 teams. And I think for sure, this is a big risk for the Direwolves.
You can tell the Wildcard have quite a few things up their sleeve. That castle strat you broke down on bar last round comes to mind. It wasn't quite a default setup. It was had its own spin on what a lot of people like to do on that site. And so Direwolves are now having to think on their feet. Fortunately for them, they have a little bit longer of a pause to do so than they would with just a normal tactical timeout, because this has turned into a technical timeout. But what have they got to do? You know, mid-game, got to adapt, taking an early tactical timeout, only 2 rounds in, but they know they can't afford to lose too many of these attacks. So what have they got to be talking about right now, knowing that Wildcard immediately will be going to a different bomb site, either Kitchen or Master, on account of the previous 2 being locked. But then for the rest of the half as well, making sure that they can come back, ideally get a 4-2. 4 rounds in a row would be nice. But what needs to be the point of discussion right now for Direwolves?
I think if you're the Direwolves, you're thinking Wildcard, they like to do this thing where they hold as much of the map control as possible. We saw that in the last 2 rounds, right? Wildcard players were everywhere. Even though the hold was bar, we saw OJ, for example, holding on to dining really early. For the Direwolves, if they can make the strength in that early game in those entries work, isolating that first pick, just like they did with Tuhan in the first round on the top floor, that's immediately an in and some real estate that they can get onto the map, because so far, it just doesn't feel like Direwolves have a very good grip of the entire map in general, and finding an in seems to be what they need right now.
They're going to have to do some problem solving on this round as well, because OJ's brought the clash. We're going to dining. On top of this, Kairo's on that Warden. We have seen Direwolves already utilize that Ying quite a bit. Jackie Wu's sticking it for now, so if Direwolves want to try and leverage that for an early push, they better hope that Kairo's not there ready and waiting.
Not only that, but they've also got OJ on the clash. That is a very curious pick for me, Dev. I have absolutely no idea what Wildcard are going for, but I don't really know the past 2 rounds either. I'm sure it's going to be something creative and exciting. Wildcard looking to extend up onto this top floor. Not too many repicks on the side of the Direwolves. Deciding to take away the Thermite, actually, is a curious one for me for the Direwolves. It indicates that maybe they're not going to go for this lobby-sided take. It's going to be more pressure into that top floor take instead. They're not looking to open up that wall.
Yeah, 0 hard breach. It's kind of unusual. Even an ace, so you can at least do it from afar, or Hibana. We see a lot of teams run Hibana on this site. Yeah, sorry. It was Direwolves themselves who banned it. There you go.
OJ, though, immediately contesting this Solar and Trophy side early, anticipating that the Direwolves will start to clear this. I suppose this is what the Clash is for, right? He can get right up close to those windows, challenge the repels, and we can see the play of the Aruni, that's Tuhan, just inside of the closet, ready to contest the repels as OJ gives him the information.
This is awkward, isn't it? What's
Awkward.
Jackie Wu to do here?
Oh, look, he's even resetting the Syria gate. They can't clear it because OJ is at it. And so when they want to throw in that Yin Candela, it's going to be burnt. That's so frustrating.
That is very cheeky. He does go for the flash, but there is some support. OJ has a few choice words for Jackie Wu on the rappel. This is a very awkward scenario now for Direwolves. They've taken their tactical pause, and now they sit here for a minute and a bit trying to figure out their situation.
It's awkward, but I think Pika's making the most of it right now. He's just entered in through the basement, anticipating that there might be some wildcard players down here and can start to get control of the main stairs. That barbed wire's just gone down. ED's there to support him as well. And for once, we can see Direwolves actually holding on to more total map control than what wildcard have got so far.
And yet, most of the round has gone, and there's been no real exchange. A bit of util here and there. Jackie was going to throw out another Candela, both of his remaining Candelas, and that times with Pika and Reaps pushing in from West Main. Reaps opens up the exchange. With Cairo going down, it's all for Direwolves. Vinny tries to fight back, gets a double. Hot on his tail. are the rest of the Direwolves players. Tuhan there to support though from the stairs, and he does trade back ED. It is a messy round, but on the back of it, Direwolves have the advantage. They know exactly where Tuhan lays. It's up to Jackie now to cover, and Tuhan has to make his move. Jackie jumps in the window and can take him down. Direwolves finally get around on the board.
That was much, much better from the Direwolves. I really like what they were able to do there. It felt like they went, okay, we've got control so far. We've got the basement floor control. We've got ground floor control. Is everyone ready for a push? 3, 2, 1, let's go. We saw players jump in through West Main, come up the stairs, all at the same time in conjunction with the Yin Candles to cause chaos on that ground floor. Vin was able to claw 2 back, but not without the trades coming through because there were just so many Direwolves players flooding through that West Main position. In the end, winning out the trades did mean that they were left in 2-on-1 situation. They went out on the post plan, and I really like that. It felt like they were much more on the same page that time than what we saw in the previous 2 rounds.
Still just by the skin of their teeth, though. If Tuhan had managed to get that one cross, I can't remember which player it was that pushed in. It was so close. It really could have worked for Wildcard. And the fact that Direwolves can only get around across the line on the tertiary site after their tactical timeout in what was almost a 1v1, it's certainly, they're not out of the woods yet, are they? They need to show that they can now adapt onto these other bomb sites that Wildcard have already demonstrated successful defenses of.
Wildcard, it seems like they haven't changed too much of their approach so far. They're still choosing to bring the mirror. Vin has actually got one more in his pocket. Not sure where that one's going to go down. But once again, we've got this setup inside of dining. Oh, actually, where has that mirror just gone? That has gone into library. Fascinating. Wildcard seeming to read that Direwolves are going to look for this top floor control, and there's no mirror inside of dining this time. I wonder what Wildcard are going for here.
Very interesting. Wildcard are essentially preempting and predicting that Direwolves are going to attack differently to last time. Also a little bit more aggression, I feel, this time from Wildcard. You got bouncing on the pulse, trying to enable a little bit of aggression, making sure that no one's on that balcony outside piano window. That affords the rest of his team a little bit more safety.
But just where is this Direwolves push coming from, Dev? We've just seen the wall go open, but no big entries coming in. We can hear the skeleton key raining out, and in fact, Reaps is the first one to contest Cairo and take down one of the Wildcard players.
That's 3 rounds in a row that Reaps has found the opening pick as well, and every single time it's been on to Cairo, if my notes are correct. So there you go. Very good start from the newest pickup of Direwolves.
I'm not exactly sure where Reaps has just been able to find his in onto the map as well. He's very elusive here on the Nook and Peek as well, looking to follow up that control on the top floor, knowing that, oh, there we go, there's Reaps coming in through library. So it must have been the player that was actually playing that library mirror. It doesn't work out in his favor, and poor Cairo goes down for it. And now Direwolves have finally got control of this top floor. He can use the deal to make some vertical, preventing any wildcard players from coming up the stairs. But in fact, there's still some left on the ground floor.
So a lot of map control now for Direwolves that they really paid quite a cheap price for. Not a lot of time wasted. Is Jackie Wu on the buck going to be able to really get to work on that vert? I believe he's already opened up. Can we have a look at the hatch? Is a hatch, con hatch open, Skiz? Yep, con hatch is open. Already quite a bit of vert. I think it's actually Flores doing a bunch of it as well. So, wow, yeah, Wildcard really feeling that pressure on site. They will rely on bounce and the pulse on this roam.
And ED seems to be looking for that timing on the execute. He's got the diffuser in his hand. The vertical pressure is there. It's just about making sure that entry comes through without being taken down by Bounce. And in fact, that is the vertical pressure lost. They can't go for that execute anymore until that's retaken. Reaps starting to crawl his way through the jungle, but spotted out by Bouncin.
C4 detonates. Vinny trying to repel the player pushing down blue. Reaps does get down. He's really putting that pressure onto Wildcard now. He finds the kill and Direwolves erupt onto the site. Bouncin is going to need to ace up in the round, and he's not going to be able to do it. Direwolves, what an execute.
And what a great read from the Direwolves as well. They realized, okay, this top floor control, it's taking a bit of time. We've got the vertical pressure, but it's not enough because we've had our buck just taken down. Let's not go for the plant straight away and go for a flood. And we saw 3 Direwolves players, 1 coming down the blue stairs, 2 entering in through the breach, go as far deep into the site as possible. They took down Vin, they took down OJ inside of Connector, and as a result, they had total site control. They didn't need to rely on that vertical pressure that was being contested from Bouncin on the ground floor instead, and are able to take out the round.
Feels like the game has changed so much, hasn't it? You know, it's not really about that vertical play from the Buck. You're not killing these anchors by opening up holes above them. You're putting a bit of pressure on them. But at the end of the day, how did Direwolves win that round? One guy pushed down blue, and I think everyone else just pushed in breach. Maybe one from main stairs. They trust their gun skill and their coordination. It's in that timing. That's the name of the game. And as soon as they have info that one of the wildcard players is upstairs because he's just killed our Buck, that is their cue to move.
WILDCARD is starting to take us over to this bar bomb site instead. They're not going to try and repeat the basement. They think that Direwolves are right. They've cracked the puzzle of the basement. Let's try something else. And they're actually not choosing to bring the mirror either, Dev. They've opened up the strap book and they've shown us OJ. He's gone onto the Yokais instead. Vin has changed off onto the Iruni. And they're looking for, I suppose, more passive intel going into this rather than active intel. We've got all of the Malusi Banshees for the audio cues. We've got Bouncin with those alibis on the windows. They're so pesky to clear. And then OJ for the late round with those Yokais if the Direwolves take too much climb clearing this room.
He's going to have to rotate over with the Maverick Torch to open up a line of sight, perhaps an entryway into Snowmobile, but Tuhan is there. You heard ED shoot the camera. Reaps, not sure whether he heard Tuhan's footsteps, but Tuhan starts to fall back. I believe he did shoot that drone. ED is now trying to open up an avenue to walk through. He's going to have to worry about the player holding him from inside blue.
And it seems like Direwolves are changing their approach to this clear as well. They're looking for a bottom-up clear here, Dev. They're going to go in from the basement, clear where they can, use that Maverick Torch on the storage wall, and see if they can find any of the lingering wildcard roamers in this basement, in this ground floor. Reaps will be the first in the building. The Lion scan 2 ring out, and there's even a yellow ping onto Tuhan. He can take him down, and Reaps once again with the entry pick in this round.
So that's so well played from Direwolves. The E1D, the drone, the yellow ping, and the entry from Reaps. They're looking so organized. They've flipped this game on its head ever since that tactical pause. Reaps has now found his 4th opening kill in a row. He is seemingly unstoppable. As I say that, I jinx him. And OJ sprays him down. Nice little attempt at the trick there with the Maverick, but OJ knows it oh too well.
OJ, of course, being the Maverick player himself on the side of WILDCARD, knew that one was coming as soon as Tuhan had died on that basement, and now the Direwolves, they're down in the mound count, bouncing to double down it. Now 3-on-4 situation for WILDCARD. OJ just re-peeking into this basement hole that's been made by ED, but nothing comes of it.
Attackers have recovered their diffuser.
Now down in the numbers. What are Direwolves going to do about it? They don't really have a lot of map control to show for it. In fact, all of the remaining attackers are outside the building. We've got Vinny still in dining. You've got Bouncer with mezzanine control. Effectively, 0 map control right now. But are they going to be able to entry into the site? Here we go. Jackie Wu's managed to get himself into reading. Cairo just around the corner upstairs, though. May be the one to take him down. Jackie Wu hiding behind the monitor. That is just filthy. He finds a double kill. And just like that, the round is once again flipped upon its head. Vinny has to 1v3 retake. With the DMR in hand, he can reset the Surya gate, but he's got a hell of a lot of work ahead of him.
And just look at what the Direwolves players have done. They're not giving away their lives, holding onto this library position. They know that's the win condition in this post plan. As long as Vin doesn't get control of the top floor, he doesn't get control of that hatch, it is all over. And look at that. The gun of the suppressor bringing out, but the upside down. Oh, Vin, hang on a second. A nice little shot and stuff to down repel, but Jackie Wu can take him down. DMR versus DMR, and it is all over for WILDCARD.
Man, what a round from Direwolves. What did they talk about during that tactical pause? They've just gone from 0-2 to 3-2. In that round, they were in a 3v4, and they ended at a 3v0.
I really like what the Direwolves have done though, Dev. Like, I think that they're really on the same page at the moment. It feels like these attacks, these last 2 or 3 attacks they've done have been so much more coordinated than the previous 2 attacks they did. They are always on the same page. They're always going for the same position of map control. We saw 3 players go for the basement and then 2 or 3 players go for the top floor. It's no matter what they do, they're doing it together, and that's something new from the Direwolves.
I'm sure that there are a couple people that groaned when I said, while Direwolves taking their tactical pause, oh yeah, they really need to be gunning for a 4-2 here. Some people are like, oh, come on, you know. Stop dreaming. WILDCARD's up 2-0. The first 2 rounds have been reasonably dominant for WILDCARD. And now it's looking quite likely. WILDCARD haven't yet won this kitchen dining bomb site. This was actually where it all started for Direwolves. WILDCARD, they won Snow, they won Bar, then they lost here. They went back to Snow, they lost it on the second try, and then the same thing for Bar. So they've completely lost faith in the bomb sites they've previously successfully defended. Now Bouncing's going for a spawn pick. It doesn't look like anyone is going to meet him here. But you can see WILDCARD really running out of ideas. They're throwing everything they've got at the wall in this final round.
Look at the confidence as well from the Direwolves. They've gotten in nice and early this time. Edie has already made his way into the ground floor, and there's a player to meet him inside of the bar, completely unknown. Bouncing taken down, and Edie ready for that second player on the blue stairs as well. He swings him in too hard. He can clean it up with the trade.
Thankfully, WILDCARD get that trade. Reaps, unfortunately, doesn't get his 5th opening kill in a row. It's a shame for him. But hey, there's more work to be done this round. For the guy who's gone 5-1. Is that right? Wow.
Direwolves, though, they're starting to get control into this north side of the building. Karo will take down Pika, and Reaps as well can go back on trades. And the attrition game is pretty strong for both these teams right now. No one has oh goodness, I was going to say no one has a strong inkling into the site, but Reaps can double down on the momentum and take down OJ. Full site control now for the Direwolves.
This isn't a game of attrition. This is a game of rushes. And Souffle sprints up the stairs to take down the final 2 players off site. Bada bim, bada boom. That's the half. 4-2 for Direwolves.
I just ate my own words within milliseconds, Dev. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh wow, these trades are going out so well. This is a mid-round game of Rainbow Six Siege. And all of a sudden, Reaps just completely changes the pace of the round. He saw, okay, this is taking too long. This is slow. The wildcard players haven't consolidated their plays back on the site yet. With that pick that I just got inside of West Main, I'm going to go for it. And that's exactly what Reaps did, changing the pace on the wildcard players, knowing that there's no one there for that refrag and trusting in his gun skill to open up the entire bomb site for the Direwolves.
You know what's scary is that Ying from Direwolves. Every time they bring it, you hear those Candelas ring out and you're like, is this a rush or is it not? Because legitimately you can't tell. Sometimes they just throw Candelas into the site when they're trying to distract away from something else going on the other side of the map or around the corner. But sometimes it legitimately is a rush, like that round where I think 3 or 4 Direwolves players, I think it was 3 Direwolves players at the same time, started to really put that heavy pressure onto West Main, and one of them ended up just sending it into sight for a 2K. Yeah, meanwhile, you got a guy on the solo rappel. It's just all happening all at once for Direwolves, and I really feel like they have the momentum squarely on their side now going into the second half.
Direwolves changing philosophies as well from what WILDCARD have done. They're actually taking us up to this Master and Offers bomb site. If I'm not wrong, I don't think we've seen this one yet from WILDCARD. Yep. This was not something that they like to go to. And they're looking for this very strong horizontal hold that they're doing. They dedicated 3 or 4 Rios to holding on horizontally on that top floor, while the rest of the WILDCARD players shape up individually around the map, playing these cutoffs, trying to capitalize on any of the mistakes that the Direwolves players might be making.
WILDCARD have quite a bit of map control, though. You can see players all the way downstairs. Is that blue outline in kitchen or in the garage basement? Okay, kitchen. Keeping an eye on anyone walking in through trophy. There's actually a nade over the top. Doesn't find him, however. Vinny's trying to drone out that player. He's the one on the nook. He's going to send a second nade on through, but yeah, doesn't find anything. Slow start for WILDCARD. Pika's gone in, shot a drone in garage, and fallen back. You can see WILDCARD have set up some nice pre-plays, but they are being hunted down.
So WILDCARD are looking for a minimalist solo take here. They're not looking to clear the roam that the Direwolves had set up inside of Library. We can see already the flank drones coming out for the WILDCARD. They've set them in the basement, making sure no one can retake through trench. They're making sure that they've sent in nades so no one is playing inside of Trophy. And what that does is enable the swing in from Solar when that entry needs to come through. The next step here is getting that wall open for OJ, enabling that line of sight onto the closet to make sure that Jackie Wu can't be in this pesky position here to contest that rappel in.
But Direwolves are the ones continuing to be a bit pesky. Where was that? It's Reaps. Are they really just going to go for this? I mean, there's still information for WILDCARD on this alibi player. Vinny, oh no way. Did someone get off that drone? He seemed clueless. He had no idea that the player was there ready to swing him. It's gone from bad to worse for WILDCARD, and it just keeps getting worse. 2v5 now. Cairo and Tuhan got to pull out something unreal.
Tuhan just looking to see any Direwolves players that might be peeking him, but he gets pokeballed himself instead, taken down, now leaving Cairo in the 1 versus 5, unwinnable with only 30 seconds left.
It's all right. Pound to the KD a little bit, mate. He's on the breadstick at the moment. I think we might have rehosted after the first round or the first 2 rounds, so perhaps not all of the kills and deaths are on the scoreboard. So don't be misled. Take it all with a grain of salt. But right now, WILDCARD are taking a little bit of a breather. They know that Cairo is not winning this one. Instead of giving it a crack, he's just going to hold on. WILDCARD can talk about this next attack, where it might be, because Owls just won 5 rounds in a row.
I think there was a big difference in the philosophy between these two teams as well. Not the philosophy, let's say the way that these two teams have conducted themselves, Dev. Direwolves, by the end of that last half, they really looked like they were on the same page. They really looked like they all had one idea, one position on the map that they wanted to pinch and clear, and they went for it. WILDCARD that time, they tried to consolidate all their players on Solar side, but they couldn't even get that control. They couldn't get any boots in the building. No one could enter Trophy. No one could swing in from Solar. And as a result, all the WILDCARD players go, okay, this isn't working. Let's just try something funny, try something new. We'll go off on our own. And that didn't work out because there were Direwolves players there to meet them on the other side of the map everywhere they went. And so I think that just the sheer teamwork between these two teams has really diverged in this series.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? And you really get punished for your lack of teamwork and your lack of timings when you're on that attacking side. Especially in this meta, especially on a map like Chalet. You just take a look at the way that Direwolves played their attacks, right? It's not really about, okay, we're going to commit to hard breach here. This is our push. Our push is this. No, they're about looking for opportunities and then nailing those timings. Absolutely nailing them. That's what the real skill is in Rainbow Six in this current meta. The Direwolves have it. WILDCARD, they're just a little bit behind compared to their opponents in this game so far, and they really need to flick a switch because they've lost 5 rounds straight.
And I'd have to absolutely agree with you on that, Dev. Right at the start of the series, we said the difference between these two teams is that WILDCARD seem to have a really great grip of the architecture of the map. What Direwolves have is, no, they're not playing this map textbook, but what they are doing is leaning into their teamwork and leaning into those timings, and that is the weakness. That is exactly what the weakness of WILDCARD is. They don't have that teamwork that this Direwolves roster has. Now we can see WILDCARD, they've decided to go for a full map sweep, going to the bar and gaming bomb site. They've decided to go from the north side, clear across, all the way to the south side. And will this be successful for them? I sure hope it is, if they don't miss drone Pika here.
Don't think they've checked kitchen yet, so they're doing all right.
Oh no.
Speaking of missed drones, though, I mean, there's just so many little things that are going wrong for WILDCARD. It is so difficult to watch, and I'm sure it's difficult as a WILDCARD player in the server right now. Direwolves are running rings around them. Player just slipping through the cracks in bathroom in Solar, and then another player slipping through the cracks in kitchen. Reaps and Peak are now solidifying this roam.
I was going to say, big disconnect between the entries and the droning there. We saw the entry come through and then the drone swing around the corner just a second later, and that cost the lives of 2 of the WILDCARD entries. Now the Direwolves holding on to so much map control. OJ can take one down, and Cairo as well can go in for a very brave vault in through the window, and now all of a sudden the man count has been evened out.
Yeah, hey, a kill is a kill, right? Like, it is now 3-on-3. A lot of WILDCARD players are taking a lot of HP damage, but even numbers is even numbers, and Cairo is on the verge of finding another one. He's being pressured by 2 players, but they play it so well, and they best him. Benny, the last full HP player now on WILDCARD, but he is stabbed in the back from the player on the mezzanine. It's all up to OJ, who's done a little bit of damage in this round, but it's going to take only a tiny amount of damage to finish him off. 45 seconds to work with in the 1v2.
OJ will have to play this to an absolute T if he wants to close this one out. I think he's just seen Reaps cross over to the corner of Library, making this hop in through the window impossible for him now. Sends in Flashbang, trying to bait out some of these Direwolves players, looking at this double window now, making his way over to the dungeon window just on the top of these main stairs. Is wary of this peak, but really there's just not enough time, not enough HP, and in fact the Frostmats take him down. The Direwolves pick up yet another round in the series.
I mean, you knew he was going to die there somehow, but that just... I think I actually got legitimately jump scared when I saw that Frostmat.
Not a great way to go out.
No, there are better ways to go. And going down 6 rounds in a row before taking your tactical pause would be one of them. WILDCARD. It's been a hell of a long time since you started this game with a bang, 2 rounds of defense on an attacker-sided map. Ever since then, disaster has struck. Look at the glum faces of this WILDCARD roster.
That is exactly what I was going to say. They look so doom and gloom right now on these player cams. They are not happy. Long faces. It is not easy to go down 6 rounds like that and try and claw yourself back in. Now, Hotshot, I believe the coach for this team, taking this tactical timeout. We can see none of these WILDCARD players talking at the moment. Just listening to the coach, see what he's got to say to bring them back in. OJ now starting to get a little bit vocal, but for WILDCARD, they really need to inject some energy. They really need to inject something to be on the same page as these Direwolves players, because really, Direwolves are just outpacing WILDCARD in every single way. They're outpacing them in confidence, in timing, even just in these gunfights, in these one-on-ones. It just feels like there are Direwolves players, not just 1, but 2 to swing on them in every way. They have bested them in this series so far.
And Direwolves can, they're laughing about it right now. You know, they've now, as of this round, just passed, guaranteed 1 point out of this game. That puts them on 6 total, which is the same number that WILDCARD have out of 3 games, and this is only Direwolves' 3rd game. That's phenomenal. If Direwolves can then take this win, 7-2, 7-5, whatever it is, as long as it's in regulation, they'll jump onto 8 points, which is even above Fury, so Direwolves will sit in 1st place. And they've played the same number of games as Fury and Elevate, yet they will have jumped above them. So a huge victory for Direwolves, especially to do it in such a dominating fashion. It bears such strong hopes for their chances of a return to the major this November.
Direwolves taking us down to this kitchen bomb site now, holding a pretty aggressive hold in this top floor inside of office. We can see the quad walls in the top of office. Both of them have been opened horizontally. They're immediately contesting inside this mezzanine. They're also contesting this library hallway as well. And if WILDCARD decide to do this a map sweep, they're going to be met by a lot of resistance. Already a player inside that library box connector contesting that hop in through library.
Pressures on WILDCARD, last-ditch effort. What are you going to do about it? Tuhan's made his way inside, lurking up the main stairs. Back of the line scan. Not a lot of info to work with at the moment, however. Going to have to drone for himself, but he's cautious about getting flanked.
And that's probably what a drone is.
Yeah. Is the fireplace cam still up?
It could be up, but I think that drone is there for the flank drone. So Tuhan's got, okay, we've gone and got this basement control. Someone else going through the ground floor. That's what the second WILDCARD entry has done. They're just trying to take the real estate that Direwolves have given to them for free so far. And look at this, already so aggressive. Cairo, he's been really brave on these aggressive holds that the Direwolves have set up inside of office.
OJ going to go for a breach. Looks like he is going to go for that office wall. Tuhan getting some information on site. A bit uncharacteristically passive from Direwolves. Looks like they're biding their time, waiting for their moment. Ooh, C4 going to go over the top. Fake ripped. WILDCARD now need to go get some vert so they can breach. Oh, no. Oh, my God. Vinny is lucky to be alive. Watch out exactly. Oh, it was an EMP. Secondary EMP on the line. Got rid of that mute jammer. And there you go. Wall is open, but Pika reaggresses.
This could be dangerous for WILDCARD if this goes undetected. He's already making his way up the library stairs. Is there anyone on the top? There was Cairo there before.
No.
His back turned to him. Pika, oh no, is he be able to find the timing on him? And yes, he is. Cairo to be taken down, and the first pick of this round goes in the way of the Direwolves.
Yeah, and just all that map control along with it, you know? How do WILDCARD let that happen? So devastating. Things keep slipping through the cracks. Direwolves will always poke and prod and look for that opportunity. And now WILDCARD have to do the same. 30 seconds left. Bouncing so close to finding an opening. But he's taken out. Tuhan now replaces his position, can find one. And WILDCARD spring into action. But Direwolves are there. And they take 7 rounds straight. For the full 3 points, they stand at the top of APAC South for now.
That is some pretty shocking performance on the side of WILDCARD, and really just a great composure from the Direwolves to pull themselves back in nice and early, get back on that horse and really just ride the momentum through the rest of that matchup. It just felt like there was no more wildcard in it. The Direwolves were running all over them in the gunfights, in the team play, in the timing. It was the Direwolves.
Big game from Direwolves, 7-2, not 7-1, but Direwolves 7 rounds straight. A huge match from them. Like you said, not Wildcard's finest moment, but Direwolves, this is a huge win to take for them. What does it say about a team when they go 2 rounds down